I have the feeling now, if not at the beginning of today, definitely by the end of today, Remco is looking forward. And Jonas, who's been saying, I'm here to win, this race is not over, maybe now is starting to look backwards.
He has to. He has no choice. Listen, he still has 2 minutes on Remco. Okay, so in theory, it should be enough. You never know. Remco's going to have a huge morale now. He did drop Jonas Vingegaard today. He did drop the winner of the last 2 Tour de France. That's not given to anybody. He starts to feel the fatigue, but Remco's going to have that in mind. And Jonas, I think he has to be realistic and in Visma also that it's better to defend this second place because. I mean, you could also say, it doesn't really matter. He's won the Tour twice, whether he's second or third, it doesn't really matter as long as we try. But I'm fear it's not going to work with Pogacar. He's basically untouchable at this moment. So we have an interesting battle on our hands there.
Hello and welcome to JB Squared. This is your additional show where to the move where you're going to get like extra bonus of Johan Brunel today. I'm JB Hager, and of course Johan Brunel is here. He joined us on the move today, so you're doing a lot of work today.
Yeah, 4 shows today, JB.
Oh my gosh. I love you for that. But we're going to dig in and go a little bit deeper than we probably got to on the move this morning. And I particularly want to drill down a little bit more on this potential battle between second and third, between Jonas and Remco. I really want your thoughts on that. But first, thank you to our title sponsor for JB Squared, Ketone IQ. I've got my shot right here, and it's going to give me...
I'm going to do the same thing, JB. First of 4 podcasts, I need my brain to work properly. So
exactly. So here we go. There we go. Not only does it help you physically, also with mental clarity, which is why we're mostly on it during the tour. And then you dug up some research that even helps with sleep. So all these little things add up. So anyway, 30% off your first subscription order to Ketone IQ. And you'll get a free 6-pack when you use the link ketone.com/themove. All right, let's jump into stage 17. And sometimes we lead with the highlight. I think today, Johan, we'll talk about how this is built, because this is a complicated stage.
Yeah.
And this is a good chance for you to explain the dynamics of what was going on, because there's a GC battle, there was the green jersey battle, and that really affected teams working, and also a intermediate sprint. What, 120K in or something like that? 115K, which is a unique scenario.
Yeah.
So let me turn it over to you, and you can kind of explain how this unfolded and why this is such a unique stage.
And also another factor, JB, is the fact that there's a bunch of teams who haven't won anything, who are not in GC, who have not gotten any results, and this is the last of 2 chances, today and tomorrow, to go on breakaway. So it looked like everybody wanted to be in the break. No breakaway was valid. It was a super fast start. In the beginning, actually, there was a bit of crosswind also. And we could see that there was 20, 30 guys dropped at some point with surprisingly 2 guys from UAE in there. So I thought, there must be, these are the kind of stages that as a team of the leader, this is a nightmare. It's terrible. You're used to pull at a constant speed. They're really good at that. But as soon as in the end of a Grand Tour, the majority of the peloton have lost their punch. They can just go from A to B as fast as possible. They still go really fast, but they don't have that punch anymore. And today we could see that. I think Tim Wellens was suffering quite a bit. I think Marc Soler was in the back, and actually also at some point Adam Yates was in the back, top 10. He's in 7th place. So I started to think, this could be complicated for UAE. Now, of course, you have Pogacar, who rides around in the peloton like like a fish in the water. He just finds his way. But so early in the stage, I'm pretty sure that they were quite stressed. So from that moment on, it's really the goal of the team, of the leader, is really to let a breakaway go and try to slow down the peloton so that everybody can regroup and he can find his teammates again. And that did not happen. I mean, there was 4 guys who went, really strong guys: Bob Jungels, Magnus Kort, Romain Grégoire, and Tish Benoit. So a guy from Visma, but not a dangerous one. And you would say, well, this is a great break. Finally, the peloton is going to say, okay, this is it. We won. We didn't make it to the break. Now, the problem was that a lot of these teams who haven't won anything were not in that break. So they kept going and going and going. And the terrain was actually very difficult. There was no classified climbs, but it was constantly 2, 3, 4% uphill. And there was bodies everywhere. The sprinters, I mean, we straight away saw Gaviria and Sam Bennett abandon. Sprinters who said, okay, I mean, I think these guys basically, they probably started with the idea, okay, they know that it's over for them. There's no more sprint stages, but you want to make it to Paris, right? You want to finish the tour. But
or Nice this year, but yeah.
Sorry.
I know you've been saying it's to Paris your whole life, so
But I think like mentally it's so hard, like all of a sudden you're in the hurt box, but you're by yourself and you say, what am I doing here? Like mentally they crack. You clearly see Sam Bennett. It was over. There was no chance he was going to make it to the finish today.
It's funny you say that, dude. Professional cyclists must often have moments where they go, what am I doing with my life?
A lot of times.
I mean, I've done it as an amateur. I'm out in some horrible weather on a 5-hour ride with friends, and then the temperature drops, and I'm like, what am I doing? I could be doing anything else in the world. At least those guys are getting paid well.
But then you come home, JB, and you're proud of yourself. And
I know it's true.
You've done something, and the rush of adrenaline and how do you call that? The serotonin.
Yeah, it's true. The endorphins get going. Yeah, I know. Yeah. But I just wonder if professional cyclists do that quite often.
Oh, I mean, let me tell you, and especially in the Grand Tour, the 75%, if not more, of the riders who are in the race, they're saying, what am I doing here? What should I do? They know they can't abandon because there's that job. They can't abandon. They can't leave their leader. They owe a certain respect to their team, but they're just there riding, suffering, and hey, please, Nice, show up.
Yeah, and then we finally did get to that intermediate sprint. And we all were wondering if how Gourmet was feeling after he hit his knee pretty hard in his elbow and shoulder just the day before. But he answered that question.
Yeah, I mean, that was an important one for Binyam Girmay. He beat Jasper Philipsen. That's quite the statement. He beat him, like showing that he was faster in that sprint. It was slightly uphill, so in theory it's a bit better for him. And that's game over for Green Jersey. With that sprint, that's it. There's no chance anymore. That it mathematically, I guess it's still possible, but it won't happen because
Gourmet will be right. Like you said this yesterday, even if Philipsen wins, Gourmet is likely second or third.
Yeah. Plus tomorrow the sprint is after 2 Cat 3 climbs, so none of them will be at the break. So the points will be gone. And then the other stages are pure mountain stages, which none of them will be in front when the sprint comes up. So, if Binyam Girmay stays on his bike and makes it to Nice, he's the winner of the Green Jersey, which is huge. I mean, it's already huge that he wins 3 stages, right? But for him to win the Green Jersey, I mean, that's quite something. I mean, Eritrea is going to go crazy.
I know. I'm looking forward to seeing how many just East Africans in general are in Nice for the finish to welcome him. It's going to be pretty wild.
Yeah. Yeah. No, he's a cult hero. Yeah. I mean, good for him. Listen, I was happy to see. I mean, I'm also a fan of Philipsen, of course, but I think Girmay deserves this green jersey. He fought for it. He almost, lost it yesterday. Could have been really bad, that crash, and we could have seen Girmay, for example, not at the start this morning.
Mm-hmm.
So luckily he's okay. And I saw an interview of him. He says he's really hurt. His elbow and knee hurts a lot, but it wasn't really visible in that sprint. I mean, he was amazing. He was amazing. Then after that sprint, this is after 115 kilometers of full gas racing.
Yeah, they were at that point. They were like at least 20 minutes ahead of schedule. I think I heard them say, like, that's how fast they were going.
There was 60 kilometers left. And then I saw this interview of Adam Blythe interviewing Andreas Clear, the director of EF. And so they had made a plan. And for them, that sprint, that was kilometer 0 of the race. That's when the race started. It's like it's even worse. When I said a few stages ago, okay, guys, after stage 42 starts, this is even worse. I mean, these guys have been dying on the bike for 115K, trying to cover the brakes, missing the brake, having to chase it down, and then you hear, okay, this is kilometer 0, guys. now it starts. But hey, they did a good job. They had the plan. They had, from what I could understand from the interview, today was full EF for Richard Carapaz. This was his stage, full gas for him. And Carapaz had tried already a few times to go in the break. Finally, he managed to get into that group of 40 riders. Huge group. I mean, that shows you how many guys wanted to be in the break, and then how tired the peloton is, right? Because normally a group of 40 guys, you would never, ever, ever let that go, because you never know what happens. But anyway, everybody was far behind in GC. So it kind of calmed down things a lot. And at least UAE had the chance to regroup their 7 riders and to basically set a comfortable pace towards the finish. And we can talk a little bit later on what happened on that last climb. But from then on, we knew that the winner of the stage would be from the breakaway, and that's what happened.
Yeah. So then Simon Yates goes, who we did not see much of Simon Yates in the first half of this tour. I heard he was pretty sick, and he's coming on strong. It's wild. It's just hard to remember and comprehend. It's a 3-week race where you can be sick as a dog in week 1, and you just manage it to get through. And knowing how hard this tour started, it's even more miraculous.
Yeah.
And then you come around and
it happens with illnesses, with crash. I remember my first Tour de France, JB, I did in 1990. I started, and just before the tour, I got sick, and in the first few days, I got bronchitis.
Oh.
And I was on antibiotics for the first 10 days. And somehow I managed to get through it. There was it was different, because there was a lot of flat stages, a long time trial. I lost a bunch of time. And then finally, all of a sudden, there was this one day it started to change. And then the end of the tour, I was in the front in all the mountain stages. I finished 16th in my first Tour de France. And I got better and better. So, I've experienced it myself. So I can completely understand that somebody who's been, having problems in the beginning, then all of a sudden in the last week finds that extra gear. Also, because if you're feeling off or if you're sick, you're trying to save as much possible energy. You don't fight for position. You're just hanging in there. And finally, all of that adds up. Then finally, when you get healthy, because 3 weeks is a long time, right? So, you're not going to have a cold during 3 weeks. This can, I've always said, the Tour de France is the only sporting event that actually people go to have a haircut during the sporting event. It happens.
Maybe cricket. No, those only go like 3 or 4 days, right? Depends on how fast your hair grows.
Maybe the World Cup football, soccer. that's long.
We did get an email from a woman who does Iditarod in Alaska. That's the sled dog.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I don't have her name in front of me, but she, it's also an endurance race over many, many days. But she sent it in because remember when we were talking about Magnus Cort on the show, and because he's been showing the horrible hotel rooms that they sometimes stay in, and he reviews them, which he's very funny writer, by the way. She was going, when we're doing the Iditarod, sometimes we sleep outside with our dogs. I would have given anything to have that.
Yes.
There's always something better and always something worse, isn't there? Okay.
Magnus Cort is funny. I mean, I think we all saw, he took a bet. He had 170,000 followers on Instagram or something. And he said, okay, if I get to 200,000, I'm dyeing my mustache blue.
I didn't know why he did that.
He got it in one day, in one night. He got 200,000.
Oh, my gosh.
So now he's riding around with a blue mustache.
Well, I just, English as a second language, his sense of humor in English is very good. In my opinion, he's a clever writer. So anyhow,
I need to check out his Instagram. I don't think I'm following him, but I will.
Okay. So Simon Yates goes on the attack, and then we see Carapaz make a bridge again from a big group. Yeah. Which is very hard to do. It's hard to make that bridge without somebody going with you.
Well, and also, the fact that he was waiting, because those 4 riders were strong riders. Of course, they've been out there for a long time, but initially they kept that gap. Jungels and Magnus Cort and Gregoire and Benoit, they're 4 strong climbers also, and so they kept that gap. And just Carapaz was just waiting. Where he knew he had to just do one big attack, and he let the other riders attack in between, and so they were close enough. I think they were like 35-40 seconds on that second to last climb, which was the hardest climb, by the way. And also, if I'm not mistaken, it was also the first ever alpine pass used in the Tour de France, in the history of the Tour de France. Today's second to last climb, hard. So, he did an amazing attack. He caught the breakaway. In the meantime, Simon Yates had attacked up front. He caught him and dropped him straight away. These are 2 top level guys, 2 Grand Tour winners. Simon Yates won the Vuelta a few years ago, was 4th in the Tour de France. Carapaz won the Giro, was 2nd in the Giro, was 2nd in the Vuelta, 3rd in the Tour. It's like the big guys, So, Carapaz just gets better and better and better in any Grand Tour where he does not go for GC. He's been amazing. I think 2 years ago, he started the Vuelta for GC. He got in a crash, didn't work out. Took a few days like easy, and then in the last 10 days, he won 3 stages in the Tour of Spain. So it's this type of guy who just has this incredible endurance and knows how to race and knows how to pick his moment. And today in EF, they absolutely knew that he was the guy. Clear said, no, today is for Carapaz. We support him 100% with everybody, and we think that he can make it. So there was no surprise there. They announced their plan. There was everybody knew in the front group also that Carapaz was going to go for it, and he did it. But hats off to him. Amazing. He's now also joining the club of riders who have won stages in all 3 Grand Tours. He took the yellow jersey in the beginning of the tour. That's also now he had the leader's jersey in all 3 Grand Tours. Now also he won a stage in all 3 Grand Tours.
Did you see this coming on with Carapaz? We talked about it a little bit on the move this morning, but I didn't see it in the first week and a half of this tour. But what I shared on the move is I was asking Sir Bradley about Carapaz, and he's like, "You wait, he's going to come on in the 3rd week." Like he saw something there. Did you see that?
I picked him for outcomes yesterday. So,
well, of course you did. Yeah, good point.
He was my pick on outcomes. So, Yeah, you could see it. You could see it coming. You could see it coming. He struggled in the first mountain stages. Then he decided, okay, GC is not for me. I'm now picking my stages, and he tried already a few times. And now today he got it, and we're going to see more of him.
That's got to be a hard thing transition if you've been a Grand Tour winner to be a stage hunter.
It is.
And there's nothing wrong with it. Like you said, he's in this elite club now with stage wins in all the Grand Tours.
Yeah, he's in this elite club, but Carapaz is actually, I don't think he had to wait for this performance to be, he won the Giro. He's been on the podium of all 3 Grand Tours. He's Olympic champion. It doesn't get much better than that. There's not that many riders in the peloton who have that kind of palmares, in terms of he's amazing. He's a great rider. Especially he's a great racer. And especially also what I find really attractive about him is his style. The way he rides his bike, the way he moves a lot, especially when he goes full gas. He's all over the bike. And sometimes you have the impression that he's flying. He's actually not going that much faster than the rest, but he gives that impression. So obviously for the fans, that's super attractive. Listen, he's a great rider. He delivers.
I'm just laughing in my head because when I was learning to ride and then race, I would see the guys that just are all over the bike. And I thought that was so cool. It's not necessarily the most efficient thing.
It's not efficient.
It just looks cool. Looks good on TV if you're on TV. Now let's talk about the GC battle. There's a few things in particular I want to talk about. The Team UAE and how they're looking right now. Pogacar's attack, which we were all kind of like, why? But and then Remco. Going on the aggressive. And so which one do you want to talk about first? Probably the team.
Well, we touched on UAE, at the beginning of the stage. I was thinking, okay, they're hurting, and they did. It was not easy for them, but once the peloton slowed down, they got all their guys together. They had 2 guys in the front, Marc Soler and Pavel Sivakov. Visma had 3 guys in the front. They had Laporte and Van Aert and then Benoit up front. So, but once they got to that last climb, initially they just started to ride, not with the intention to set a hard tempo, because it was Niels Pollitt who was putting the pace, probably the heaviest rider on UAE. But then all of a sudden we saw this acceleration of Carlos Verona of Little Trek for Julius Ciccone, I guess, to test a few of the other guys who are top 10, because there's a huge battle going on for 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th, and 11th. So there's this battle there. Those 5 riders want to be as high up as possible in the top 10. So Ciccone must be feeling good. Verona did an amazing job. And that actually, selected the group of the first group a lot. There was only about 20 riders left. And then we saw UAE starting to pace again with Almeida and Adam Yates. There you could see already, okay, UAE has 3 guys, and with Almeida and Adam Yates and Pogacar, of course, and Jonas was by himself because Matteo Jorgensen and Wilco Kelderman got dropped. I said, that's not good. Of course, Jonas just needs to try to follow, but it's always better to have somebody in case. Now, luckily, they had guys up front, which came in handy later on in the stage. But then, when nobody expected it, I definitely did not expect Pogacar to attack. He attacked with 1.5K to go to the top of the climb. We see it here in the back, this attack. There's only 15 riders left, I guess, at that point. And we once again see that Jonas tries to follow. Once again, what do I see? He looks back. Remco's there. Remco passes him. This is the first time that we see Remco pass Jonas and actually drop him. So
say that again. That's important. What we saw today. It's the first time we've seen Remco pass and drop Jonas.
Yes. exactly.
Big deal. This is a big deal. We'll get more into that.
So, when I saw the attack of Pogacar, I was thinking, okay, what are you doing, man? Come on. You don't need to do this. In his interview after the race, he said, I attacked. I thought I was going to stretch my legs a bit. I don't really know why I attacked. I mean, the guy just is, when he races, he races. He doesn't think about anything, right? But it is, of course, it's super, super attractive, super nice for the fans, but it's not smart.
Yeah.
Because, it was closer to the finish than the other day. Yeah. But you have the downhill. I think what he probably didn't take into account is that Jonas was going to find Christophe Laporte, who was from tremendous help for Jonas in the downhill on the top of the climb. So Laporte, big guy, huge power, had probably been soft pedaling in the break for quite a bit. And he was there at the right moment. And he brought Jonas. First of all, he brought Jonas back to Remco. And then they got back to Pogacar, who in the meantime had found Pavel Sivakov, who came from the front. But the attack was basically neutralized. And then, the whole battle for the stage win is going on in front. Carapaz wins easily. And then we see on the last climb, which was a 3.5 kilometer climb, about 5% average, so not super steep. We see a bit of looking at each other, Jonas and Tadej, and all of a sudden Remco takes advantage of that supervision and he attacks. I think it was more a tactical attack than something else, but still, you have to have the legs to be able to attack on the last climb after such a hard stage. And then it was Jonas who was in the defense. And luckily, he finds Wout van Aert and Tiesj Benoot, who are coming back from the front. So it was as if it was planned. It was not planned like this, I'm sure, but it looked like it was like textbook. This is the plan. You send guys in the front, you have them drop back. And luckily for Jonas, they were there. Remco had the same situation. He took a few seconds and he got together with Jan Hirt, who also came back from the front break. So the three first riders in the GC got riders that were in the break who dropped back and could pace them. Remco had a good kilometer at the wheel of Jan Hirt, and then he went himself. And then there you could see that Jonas is, in my opinion, starting to, I'm not going to say he's fading away, right? But he's a bit off compared to where he was a week ago, because he stayed at the wheel of Tiesj Benoot. Normally when Hirt had his turn done and Remco went, Jonas should have started to go by himself. And he stayed at the wheel of Tiesj Benoot, which that pace was definitely not going to match the pace of Remco.
He needed that wheel.
Yeah, and that was obviously really good for Tadej, but Pogacar attacked really late, so he only took 2 seconds on Jonas, because also it was not steep anymore. But it's a sign. It's a sign that, Visma is strong. Tactically, they were really good today. But I fear that Jonas has reached his maximum, and that he needs to start to think about defending second place, in my opinion.
Okay, let's talk about that. Looking forward and looking back. All right, because in an interview a few days ago, the post race, because they're talking to Remco every day because he's in the white jersey, and they specifically asked him, "Are you looking forward or looking back?" And without hesitation, he said, "I'm looking back," meaning he wants to protect that third place slot. I have the feeling now, if not at the beginning of today, definitely by the end of today, Remco is looking forward. And Jonas, who's been saying, "I'm here to win. This race is not over," maybe now is starting to look backwards. I hope everybody followed me on that.
He has to, JB. He has to. He has no choice. Listen, he still has 2 minutes on Remco. Okay, so in theory, it should be enough. But you never know. Remco's going to have a huge morale now. He did drop Jonas Vingegaard today. He did drop the winner of the last 2 Tour de France. That's not anybody. That's not given to anybody. Even if Jonas is, he starts to feel the fatigue, but Remco's going to have that in mind. And Jonas, I think he has to be realistic and in Visma also that it's better to defend this second place because, you could also say, it doesn't really matter. He's won the Tour twice, whether he's second or third, it doesn't really matter as long as we try. But I'm fear it's not going to work with Pogacar. He's basically untouchable at this moment. So we have an interesting battle on our hands there. Still 3 very hard stages to come. The last day is a time trial. You could say, okay, advantage Remco, but it's basically a mountain time trial. There's 2 climbs and then it's flat and downhill. So I think they're more or less even there, but Remco's going to have huge morale.
That's what I was thinking too. And he's climbing better than we've ever seen him.
Yes,
in his life.
He's also. I saw a picture of Remco and Pogacar after the finish. They were sitting next to each other. Remco is incredibly skinny. He is so skinny compared to what we're used to. That obviously, with all the elevation there's still to come, it's a huge advantage.
Mm-hmm. That would be a wild story. And I feel like I have to be careful. Yeah, and let me ask you this, because you do a lot with the Danish press. I look at the comments. They get very upset if we don't pick Jonas for.
Yeah, they do.
They're very sensitive. I appreciate you guys listening. I love you. I don't have a favorite in this fight. I really don't. And I don't think any of us do. And it changes day to day.
Yeah.
But it's
at the end of the day, JB, we have to be with our feet on the ground and say, listen, if Jonas Vingegaard finishes second in this Tour de France, it amazing. Is an incredible story. Thinking where he was 2 months ago, right?
Agreed.
That's for starters. But of course, once you're there and once you're, I think everybody got hyped up after this. First of all, after seeing Jonas really responding to Pogacar, not losing too much time, then finally beating him.
The sprint, yeah.
Everybody got super excited, but we also have to take into account that Pogacar made a huge mistake that day. He attacked from way too far, and he forgot he was not fueled up.
Mm-hmm.
He learned from that, definitely, but we'll see. If you're in the head of Jonas Vingegaard, of course he's going to say, no, I'm not here to be second. I want to win. If not, it doesn't matter. And that's respectable. But when it really comes down to the race situations, he's going to defend that second spot for sure.
Yeah. For entertainment purposes, if Jonas and Remco are within a minute of each other, somewhere around there going into the time trial, that's pretty exciting. That's going to be a good show. Let's see.
And I also have to say, JB, we've talked about in our preview show. We've talked. I had this picture behind me of Jonas and Tadej and Primoz and Remco. We said the big four, and Lance and I said, well, it's really not the big four, it's the big three and Remco. He's proving now that he belongs in the big four. He's actually with the big three, right? Mm-hmm. Because he was already ahead of Primoz when Primoz had that problem. So I think hats off to him. He's proving that he's a Grand Tour rider. To do this in his first Tour de France, it's pretty amazing.
And he's in a white jersey.
He's in a white jersey, and let me tell you, Belgium is super excited.
Oh, I bet. Because you've been very open and candid about how difficult it's been for Remco growing up with the Belgian press. And they're not okay. You said everyone in Belgium's getting excited if the potential of him jumping to second. He goes home on the podium.
Oh, massive success.
Yeah. Huge.
Yeah. Yeah, not just for Belgium, but for him. I would say I'd probably say this: if he finishes third in the Tour, in terms of his career achievements for the moment, that's probably worth more than his Vuelta win. Looking towards the future, because they've said, you won the Vuelta, but it's not the high mountains. Not everybody was there. Well, here everybody's here. Yeah. And if you're third and you're rivaling with the guy who won the Tour twice, you're up there.
Yeah,
it gives great perspective for the future.
Okay, and I wanted to ask you something, because if you didn't hear the move this morning, you should go listen to it. But I just want to have the conversation with just you, because Lance gave quite a speech to Pogačar this morning about how it's political too. You can't just keep attacking. And of course, that's what we know that Lance did when it wasn't necessary. And in hindsight, at this point in his life, going, yeah, wow, I shouldn't have done that. Mm-hmm. And we started to get into it a little bit, because I knew you probably at some point had to tap him on the shoulder and go, hey, chill out. So let's continue that conversation here a little bit about Pogačar and the politics of being a leader.
Yeah. I mean, I understand Lance's position about the politics. I don't think Pogačar is in that same situation, but still, especially in the Tour de France and in France, the French public does not like people who win too many times. They're going to be rooting for Vingegaard or for Remco. If you win too much, they're going to start to boo you. So, and I'm pretty sure that Tadej has already experienced that, but I don't think he really cares. I don't think, the guy just loves to race his bike, and you can't blame him, but I'm more looking at it from a performance perspective, that you need to manage your effort during 3 weeks. And, he doesn't need to win another stage. It's nice to win another stage, but he doesn't need to. Mm-hmm. He's won 3 stages now, right?
Yes.
He's probably going to win another one, at least another one, without even just the fact that it's going to be a GC battle, and that he's probably going to be the best in one of those 3 stages. So I'm looking at more from, okay, you need to reserve yourself when you have to conserve. Like today's attack was absolutely unnecessary. He got 2 seconds. So what? I mean, it's nothing. I can understand that from a mental aspect. It's probably, today was an important one, because he did crack Jonas once again, in a moment where he decided to, right? So that also obviously has an influence, but you need to be careful. Listen, there's still 4 stages. There's still 3 very hard stages. It's going to be hot. It's high altitude. Anything can happen. Just if you're in that situation, just with that last little sprint at the end would have been enough if needed. It didn't even need to do that, but apparently he can't. When he sees a line, he needs to sprint. So
I know, and
It's great.
And Remco's motivated to attack now. He can just sit back and watch.
Yeah.
Right. And just follow those guys and just have a front row seat on a great fight.
Yeah, well, the mountain stages are going to be different. So on stage 19, it's a huge mountain stage with Col de la Bonnette, and finish on Isola 2000, and then the stage 20 is super hard also. It's a bit different, but yeah, I think we have a great race on our hands for the podium, and also for places. Well, I guess 4th and 5th. And if you look, well, actually, Almeida is 4th. He's only 30 seconds ahead of Mikel Landa. So that could be interesting if Almeida is on, pacing duty for Tadej. Landa could potentially pass him. Carlos Rodriguez is just 6 seconds behind Mikel Landa. And then we have this 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th, who are all within 2 minutes, which is still also a big battle. Yeah, we're going to see. I mean, I want to point out again, JB, we have hardly spoken about him only one time. Derek G. Derek G is surprising me hugely.
What I was going to ask you, Johan, is who is the best climber in the peloton right now at this point after stage 17 who is not in the top GC battle? Is it Derek G? He's top 10.
Derek G, top G. I mean, he's not the best climber. He's more an overall rider. I think the best climber who's not up there is probably Felix Gall. I mean, last year, especially in the last week, I think Felix Gall was probably the third best climber in the last week, behind Jonas and Tadej. Now he's in 11th. We haven't seen him putting his stamp on any of the stages. Could still come. He's in 11th place. He's 19 minutes down. Could go in a breakaway, but, it's going to be difficult. But other than that, I mean, everybody's there. Jay Hindley is obviously disappointing a bit. He won the Giro. He was second in the Giro. He's almost an hour down. That's obviously not his level, especially since Primoz has gone. He obviously can ride for himself, but for some reason he's not. And then Enric Mas. Enric Mas is also more than an hour down. He's been top 5 in the Tour de France already. He's been 3 times second in the Vuelta. He's a climber who is not at the level that we expect him to be.
Okay. Anything else before we jump on to Ventum Trivia? I think we covered it.
No, that's it. I mean, just one thing I saw today also, JB, is that we saw a lot of riders who were really, I mean, dead, like shocked of how hard this stage had been. Like I saw, for example, Oscar Onley, really talented climber on DSM. Saw this interview of him. The guy could hardly make one sentence. He was dead. He was just completely gone. He said, I don't know what to say, really. He said, I have no words, And then on the other hand, I did see an extremely fresh face of Pogačar on the podium. Huge difference compared to last year. I think we all remember this face after he had this massive time loss on Col de la Loze. He looked terrible. He looked pale. He was completely empty. We don't see that this year. He looks completely different.
Yeah, I think they've gotten past the stress of this rivalry, because when we were seeing him look very stressed out, people were trying to build this story of tension between him and Jonas. Prior to that, it was always like, these are two guys are just happy for each other, just happy to be on their bike for the most part. And now it's just this rivalry. I mean, even if it goes on for a few more years, it's wonderful. It's great for the sport.
It is. It's like, you never know who's going to win,
But after what they've been through, I think these two, will be able to handle it. It's tough when people build up a rivalry that may or may not be there.
Yeah.
Anyhow. Yeah. So we are going to give away a Ventum NS1 road bike on Sunday. We're going to draw a name. All of you have been entering each day as we ask a question. You can submit every single day. And that just increases your chances to win. Yesterday's question was, Matthew Riccatello is a rising star in the pro peloton. His dad, Jimmy, was also an endurance athlete. What notable event did he win during his triathlon racing career? The answer is the Xterra Off-Road World Championships. They would also accept St. Croix Triathlon if you put that in. Today's question is, what is Egan Bernal's nickname? Okay. Send that in to ventumracing.com/themove. Let's do a quick question here. James writes to you, Johan, and says, Matthew van der Poel is always mentioned on the show as the perfect lead-out man, but I haven't heard exactly why. Can you please explain what makes him so much better than his contemporaries? Is this instincts or is it power? Thanks so much. Really enjoying the show this season. Again, that's from James.
Yeah, he is. He is the ideal lead-out man. But first of all, I think his ability to move through the peloton and this ability to move forward at the last moment is something that is unique. I mean, listen, he's the world champion. He's one of the best riders in the world. To have the luxury to have that guy as your lead-out man, it does not get any better than that. Ideal lead-out man also because of his companionship and his friendship with the guy he's leading out. I mean, they get along really well. They're good friends. They can say things to each other without speaking words, just looking. They know each other so well. Mm-hmm. And then especially that last speed that he has, that he's not fast enough to be up there with the 3, 4, 5 best sprinters, but he's just behind. So whenever he does his lead out, which is probably about 200 meters long, that puts the sprinters already on the limit. So ideally, if Philipsen is on his wheel, Philipsen is already on the limit too, but he's on the wheel, right? So basically, Van der Poel goes to the side and Philipsen starts his sprint, ideally as close as possible to the finish, but all the others are already on the limit too. So there's not many riders who have the ability to do that the way Van der Poel does this.
It's his size too.
Also,
yeah, like when you look, I mean, you can spot him a mile away on the bike. His big shoulders. It
helps that he's in a white jersey with the rainbows. But
that's what I was going to say too. If you're looking for your lead out man and you're just glancing, you can spot that all white kit.
But yesterday, if you go back to yesterday's podcast, JB, and the picture I put up there of the lead out train, there are 2 or 3 pictures. You see Van der Poel, and you cannot see Philipsen in that picture. He's right behind. Entirely. You cannot see him. And Phillips is not a small guy. He's a pretty bulky guy too, but you cannot see him. So imagine the draft you get behind Mathieu van der Poel.
Yeah. Good question. Do you have time for one more real quick?
Sure.
Okay. I know it's a busy day for you, 4 shows. And you may or may not know the answer to this. We'll try. My wife and I were watching the peloton trying to form a breakaway before we left for work today. And she asked if there has ever been a Tour de France where a breakaway never got away for all 21 stages. I don't know, and thought only Johan might know this. Thanks for the show. I've been watching on YouTube and really appreciate Johan's cycling knowledge and stories. That's from Kelly in San Diego.
Yeah, well, I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think so. I think there's always been breakaways in the Tour. It's basically impossible that one breakaway never makes it to the finish. I mean, and it also depends on what you consider a breakaway, right? Because you can have a group of favorites let's just imagine there's 15 riders left because it's been a hard stage, and then one of the non-favorites all of a sudden attacks in the final and gets solo to the finish. Is that a breakaway or is that
right?
No, depends what you consider a breakaway. But I think there's always been breakaways, a few at least per Tour de France.
Probably more so historically than what we've seen in this year's tour. Has been a little unusual in that regard, right?
Yeah. Usually before there was more breakaways. That's for sure.
Okay. If you want to send a question in, we're running out of time to ask Johan as we get deep into the last week, but send your questions to themove@wedo.team. Thank you for tuning into the show, and thank you for all your hard work, Johan. I know you're doing a lot today, and we'll talk tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.